So the way we get the feed from Grants Mill is through a device called a Fujitsu, and it at the central at the broadcast campus, it has an encoder that encodes the video that they're sending to it and sends it to us over our network, which we have a wide area network set up. And we get it here on our network, and it's decoded in what's called a Fujitsu decoder. In fact, we actually have that direct video feed up on our screen going into our switcher, and a direct video feed from that device straight into this right here. So it doesn't go through any of our routers or anything like that. If that doesn't make any sense to you, then you can ask about routers and stuff like that. But the video comes straight out. The video and audio comes straight out of the decoder into this particular deck right here. So whenever we start recording, it starts recording exactly what we're getting from Grants Mill. And if I hit the record button, you'll see it start recording. And you'll see audio. You'll see an image of what's being recorded. Well, we started recording. It's not a live image, but it does show that. And that's mainly because we're remoting in. If we were actually on that computer, you would see an updated image there. But it's never been a problem, and this has worked out really well for us. So while it's recording, I want to talk about a couple things. This shows you the length of the clip. INTPB, I have no idea what that is. That's the name. If you want to change the name while it's actually being recorded, you can do that. You just click on it and you can change the name. I'm going to just change this to say test clip. And you see it changes the name of it. This is a very important little information. I don't know, it gives you some great information about what's going on. So you see the little thing going around. This little pie here is telling you how much of the space is taken up for recording. So right now, it looks like we're just over a quarter. We're using just over a quarter of our space. Down here, it tells you how many hours you've got left to record. So 19 hours, 37 minutes, and 26 seconds is how much we've got left to record. And that doesn't update in real time. Sometimes if you stop, you see how it just changed. It doesn't update like this doesn't update. This doesn't either. It just updates periodically and and tells you how much space you've got left on there. So if we're recording a 2-hour service, we're in good shape. We don't have any trouble. But that's not to say that we don't keep the bin cleaned up. We always clean things up every week when we come in. So we're starting with really a fresh slate Sunday morning when we get started. So again, stop key. One of the neat things I like about this is there's a lot of, I didn't mention it before, but we utilize this using keyboard shortcuts or space bar and the arrow keys. That's how we manipulate it. Rarely do we ever use the mouse to pause. Some people may do that, but it can be actually, it takes input from the keyboard to manipulate clips and so on and so forth. So if I'm clicked in here and I hit the space bar, which is usually the stop button, it doesn't affect our recording, which is really good because any kind of keyboard entry does not stop that, and that's really good. We don't want that to stop because if it stops, it corrupts our recording and our playback. So on a typical Sunday, the way we use this is we are recording this clip, this test clip right here, and we take this clip and we drag and drop it down here in this playback or this particular deck, and then it becomes a playback deck. And I hit play, and you can see it's playing 3 seconds, 4 seconds of that particular clip. And it looks like right here, this tells you how far behind you are from the end of the clip. So right now it's 2 minutes, 54 seconds. On a typical Sunday, we would drag that all the way to the end and get as close to the live point as we can. But if you'll notice, it bounces between 3 and 4 pretty regularly right there. All that means is that as this is recording and laying down video and audio, this is playing back 3 or 4 seconds behind that. So anyway, that's important to know because if you were actually playing back a clip, that would be the end point of that playback clip. In this case, we're recording it and playing it back at the same time. But if I'm playing back a clip that's already recorded, it's not being recorded at the time, like one of these clips, it would just tell me the the time till the end, and I'll show you that real quick. So I'm gonna stop this, and I'm gonna eject it using the eject key. Now I'm just gonna put 8 a.m. from this past Sunday in there, and you'll notice that, well, we've got it set up. The endpoint is at looks like 1 hour 59 minutes, and it's 51 minutes left to play. So if I hit play, you'll see this start playing from the point where we've actually got a cue point in there of an endpoint. What that means is that we're playing back from 1 hour 59 minutes into the clip that we have recorded. So there's 2 hours of clip that we don't need prior to the point where it's playing back at. But anyway, that tells us how much is left, if that makes any sense. So if I move this little tractor bar, I didn't mention this. This is the little tractor bar, and it doesn't show up until you drop a clip in there, but this is a little tractor bar that helps you navigate in the clip. Now, you can't see any of this updating here, but if you look up on the screen up there, and Mr. Jim will show you up there, and I'm moving it back and forth, I can see it bouncing around in there in the clip. I wouldn't recommend using this if you're trying to get to a fine point, because it's so short that you'll end up jumping over the spot that you're trying to get to. Maybe just get to the vicinity that you need to be in, and then use the keyboard shortcuts to get closer to where you need to go. There are various ways to do that, and once you see the various ways to do it, you can choose whichever works best for you. Now, I mentioned that you can add cue points. I'm just going to stop this right quick. The cue tab, so you got control tab and a cue tab. So you can see in here that we've got a mark in, which is the beginning of the clip, where it starts at. That's where we want it to start from, at 1 hour 59 minutes. And the ending is at 2 hours and 50 minutes. So if I want to add a cue in there, let's just add a cue real quick. I can show you. So I can just kind of go to where I want the cue to be on the screen, so I can navigate to that point. So let's just say I want to go to where the bumper begins here. Using this little drag bar, and you may not be able to see it right now, but it's the drag bar at the very bottom of the screen. I would get really close, and then if I use the arrow keys, I can move back and forth the arrow keys. Show them the arrow keys real here, so they know what I'm talking about right here. So these are the arrow keys. It lets you move backwards and forwards. Yeah, it's good. In the actual clip, frame by frame, and there are 30 frames per second, which means that you'll have to tap that 30 times to go 1 second. But there's a better way to do it. If I want to go forward, and most everybody uses this. So to fine tune, you use this. If you want to go a second at a time, you can hold the shift key down and use the same keys, and it'll go forward a second and backwards a second respectively. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to use to get this dialed in. So now you can go show that. So now they kind of know what's happening down here that they couldn't see before. So now I'm going to go, let's just say I want to get to the bumper. Well, I know the bumper is at the end of this. So I'm holding the shift key and just tapping the arrow key until I get to that dark moment. There it is right there. There's the bumper. And I'm going to go back a second, and then I'm going to use the arrow key to get it back to right there. Okay, so now I've got me a little spot. So I want to add a cue point there. All right, let's look at the screen. So now I'm going to click on cue, and I'm going to add a cue there. And you see it added that cue right there. And the cool thing is I can go in there and say bumper. I don't know if I spelled that right. Maybe I did. So anyway, this may not be a practical thing that you would want to do on a Sunday morning, but where I found it very useful, and some of the guys have found it very useful, is when the band likes to rehearse at certain points, and you know those points are something they're going to want to rehearse, you can go in there and put a cue point before that particular point, so you can get to it a little faster and not have to navigate to it using any of this, because it's just, it takes way too much time, and the band moves really fast, and we don't have time for, even I would have trouble getting it dialed in. That's why I build cue points ahead of time so that I can navigate quickly and find a spot. So I'll show you right quick. So if I want to, I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to say go to that selection. So if you look up on the screen, I'm going to hit the play so it can be playing. There's no audio, but don't worry, it's playing. It's just not in here. So let's just say, all right, and then the band says, hey, we need to go to the bumper real quick. Well, I can click on that particular bumper cue that I've got in there, and I'm gonna click go to. All right, you see the go to right there. You can see it on this side. All right, Mr. Jim, you can put it back up there. And I'm gonna click on go to, and you'll find out how quick it goes to that cue. There it is right there. Instantly, it will go to it. It is powerful stuff. And this is not, I'll just be honest with everybody, we don't use this a lot, but it does come in very useful at like special events, at Christmas, when the band is rehearsing some things and there's some video content that goes along with it, or they're playing along with Grants Mill, you know, stuff like that. I've seen us use it when we close out the message and we're all singing together in that moment at the end before we come back local. That we've done maybe a handful of times since the beginning of the year. So in those cases, I'd be anticipating that. If you're a TD, you're thinking, all right, how can I make this seamless when we go to this point, to this point, to this point? This is the way you can do that. You can pull in the clip that you're going to use and add those cue points, and it makes it just so easy to get to that.